Welcome to Causing the Effect, a podcast focused on the exploration of your mind, body, and spirit.
Miss Rachel Webb, how you feeling, man?
Hi, Scott. I'm doing so good this morning.
Good. Everybody, hold tight. If you liked Hector Marcel, we got Rachel Webb here. Basically, I thought Hector was running everything. Rachel's running everything over at 3 Joules. You guys love Hector. Top episodes, check them out. 224, 184. Really about meditation. It's what we're going to be talking about today. Rachel, I guess you're the second in command at 3 Joules. Is that how this works?
Yes.
Oh, so my God.
He's the president of the board. I do almost everything he says, but I'm basically the person on the ground, designing programming, training teachers, teaching a lot myself, and really managing the nonprofit 3 Joules.
Gotcha. And I won't go through in detail your training. Many years of Tibetan Buddhism training, the sutra courses. Which ones do you want to highlight just to prove yourself, Rachel?
Oh my gosh. My spiritual resume. It's so funny. As time goes by, I feel both more qualified to speak on these things, but also older, which is weird. It doesn't feel like it's been 10 years, but it has. So I discovered 3 Joules. I bumped in Hector and I live near each other. We were talking about it before we started recording. So I bumped into Hector 10 years ago at a coffee shop in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And that's when my journey began. And so I started going to 3 Joules. So Hector and I didn't just come up with 3 Joules. It's been around since the 90s. It was started by actually a Buddhist nun who wanted to get the sutra teachings to people for free. So I met him, and then I immediately started studying that stuff because I was open and ready, and I really wanted answers. And so I studied. It's a 7-year program. There's 18 open or sutra courses, and then there's 18 Diamond Way or tantric courses, which you have to study for 7 years, and then kind of go through a whole process where you apply to be included in those teachings. So I've been studying and practicing for 10 years. And same with yoga. Yoga is also a Buddhist practice. And so I've trained in yoga for hundreds of hours. I lead yoga trainings. I now teach dharma. So it's all been going on for the past decade.
That's good enough for me, Rachel. Wonderful. And we're going to be talking. I thought it'd be fun to have Rachel on because I came back from Costa Rica for my little self-meditation retreat. Rachel did like a real one because I just kind of wing it. But before we get into that, what did Rachel look like before meeting Hector?
Oh boy.
Yep. Just opened it up for you, Rachel.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's funny. I think I winged it on my retreat. Before I met Hector, let's see, I had just graduated college. So I went to NYU. I studied psychology there. I thought I was going to become a therapist. And I was at this weird point, which I think a lot of people get when they do the 4-year university thing. You think you're going to do something, then you graduate. And then for many people, that's the time when they start really paying their own bills and living on their own, And so I just had this huge reality check of like, oh, I'm going to be working until I'm dead. And I also, that coincided with a breakup. It coincided with me losing my job. So I was just like sleeping on a mattress on the floor in Bushwick, trying to figure out how to make money because I did not want to move back in with my parents. And what brought me to Buddhism was really just asking myself these questions of why is it that I'm still not happy? I studied this stuff in college. I got good grades. I studied the human mind. Why is it that I don't understand how to be a human mind in a way that like makes me feel good? I worked out regularly. I was going to therapy. I was taking antidepressants, and I still wasn't satisfied with my life. And so that basically turned into me, I don't know, just like going to Barnes and Noble and like trying to get spiritual books and like figure out like, does someone else know what's going on? And the big turning point for me, Scott, and I'm sure you've at least heard of this book, is the book Be Here Now by Ram Dass. And at the end of the book, so he like talks about all these crazy things, and he talks about some Buddhist concepts as well, because he was a Tibetan Buddhist before he met his guru. And at the end of the book, he says, if you meet a guru, you'll know what to practice to get free. You'll start to learn, like, how should I eat? How should I think? What should I meditate on? What breath practices should I do? And I was like, whoa, like if someone sat me down and told me, Rachel, all you have to do is think about these things this many hours a day, or like move your body in these poses, right? Like yoga asana. And I was like, how does someone find a guru like that? Like, how was it that Ram Dass like met this guy? I don't know, you know the story. He's like sitting on a blanket in India, and he's just like demonstrating all these psychic powers. So I'm like Googling, how does one find a guru? And if you ever Google that, it's very strange. And it was during that period of time that I walked into the coffee shop, and I met Hector, and I met his former partner, Steven, and they were like, we run a Buddhist center, and we like offer this free 7-year curriculum. And so I just started going. And the moment I sat down, the moment Hector taught the Four Noble Truths, you know, life is suffering, suffering has a cause, suffering has an end, and there's a path out, I was like, oh, the path, that's exactly what I've been looking for. And so since then, it was the beginning of 2013. And so since then, I don't think I've spent more than, you know, a week or two away from 3 Jewels. And so it was like my honor to actually then start working full time for 3 Jewels, because I was basically there all the time, like just trying to absorb the wisdom. Anyway, so that's my, that's who I was. What was I doing before that? Watching a lot of Netflix. Yeah. When I was in college, when I was in high school, I was like getting drunk all the time, getting high all the time, all that thing, you know, like I just couldn't figure out the answers, trying to numb the pain. I mean, it's the story of like 99% of the human population, right? Like you don't know the answers, so like what else are you gonna do? And especially if you have a mental illness, like what was the fucking alternative? So anyway, so then I went to NYU, study all this stuff. That's still not working. So then I'm like, okay, let's try Buddhism. And Buddhism hasn't disappointed me yet.
10 years later.
Yeah.
What did you think it would be like before, you know, going into this? Like, what did you expect? And what is it actually? Because I would think what I've learned in my couple years of being on this journey is it's more suffering than I thought, becoming aware and being mindful and looking at the unconscious side of things.
Oh yeah. Well, suffering was going to happen either way. And I was in so much pain that I, like, you know, when you like get in that point, it's not like someone was like poking me with like a hot coal or anything, but I just like, I think being a naturally very depressed person and someone who has kind of like these very strong addictive tendencies, when you live, it's not like easy living. Even if nothing bad is happening, you're just kind of like generally aware of how difficult life is for people. And so I wasn't really like, I wasn't really like sitting and evaluating like, do I believe that this guy knows, or is this a worthy center to go to? I was just like, okay, an answer came through. And then I like showed up, and then the things that I was hearing were blowing my mind, and it hasn't stopped blowing my mind. And I think I've gone through different phases since the beginning of my journey. Like people have a lot of misunderstandings about spirituality, which I think is what you're pointing to, you know? Yeah. So I initially was like, I have to give up everything. Like I gave up. I like went through my closet and I like got rid of any clothes that like made me feel beautiful or sexy. I like stopped shaving. I stopped waxing my eyebrows. I stopped getting my hair cut. Like that whole phase of like, just give everything away. Material things are what cause pain. And I think that's a phase a lot of people go through, but it's so not what Buddhism is about. Buddhism is about finding happiness that doesn't end. And so people do a lot of weird shit to get there, but it's really about learning how to look at your own mind and how to utilize its potential towards that. So the Buddha taught like every single living being, if you're a human or you're an animal or you're an insect, actually has the potential to find bliss that doesn't end. And so what that, and that can get really trippy. So just to like ground it in reality a little bit, like we all know this story about this guy Buddha who like meditated a lot and then woke up, and he, you know, and then presumably the experience is like, you're not so weighed down, you're not so affected when things happen, that other people would find very painful. But really the whole thing about a Buddha is, it's in terms of cause and effect, which is funny, the name of your podcast. All a Buddha is it's a mind that figured out how to use causes to create the effects that feel good. And what that means is you learn how to think, speak, and act in a way that will only ever bring you pleasure. The problem is we don't know how to do that. We're born, we have a certain genetic component. We learn things from our parents and things like this. And we're basically on autopilot with no control. We're not even fighting for control. And we're just at the mercy of habits that have been created genetically, past lives, doesn't really matter why, but you know it, right? You wake up, you check your iPhone. You might be annoyed at someone, you say negative things about them behind their back. You might be annoyed at yourself, you say negative things to yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror. All of those things have an effect, you know? And the Buddha is just like, look, you want to be efficient at creating your own happiness? Stop talking shit about other people, because every cause has a similar effect, which is that you're going to feel like shit about yourself, you know? And so things like this. So the Buddha just cracked the code to thinking, speaking, and acting in a way that just generates pure and unadulterated happiness all the time. And there's a lot of there's, you know, thousands of pages of teachings on that. What is it that they did? But Buddhism, I think there's and then I'll stop talking, and then you know, I can rant on this for hours. But I think that there's a perception of like in Buddhism, you like give everything up and you just like kind of try to stay even. You're not attached. So you don't care if your partner stays or leaves. You don't care if you have money or you don't have money. You don't care if you can eat or you can't eat. And it's not really true. It's more about understanding where happiness really comes from. Does it really come from money? How do you know? Billionaires still wake up, you know, because of your career.
Yeah.
Billionaires still wake up in the morning and they say, I need more. Why? You have $1 billion. So many people are trying to get to $1 billion or $2 billion or even $1 million. But then what happens once they get it? They need more because the money doesn't create happiness. And the Buddha's like, dude, it's true of everything else. Yeah, but if I just had a partner, I'd be happy. Not true. How many people you get a partner, you get a girlfriend, you get a boyfriend, whatever, they break your heart or they become boring, you know, they become tedious. And it's the same with every other thing. So the Buddha is just saying, nothing that you think is going to make you happy. There's nothing outside of you that's ever going to make you happy. Give up on that. Stop trying. It doesn't work that way. Instead, go inside, look at your thoughts, look at how you speak, and look at how you treat other people. That's what creates your happiness. Then you could be happy with $20.
Yes.
Or $1 million or $1 billion or any partner on the face of the planet. Doesn't matter, because it's coming from you. You know, it's coming this way. It's not coming from the money, or it's not coming from the person. So it's like that. You hack that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've learned this the hard way on a practical level. Like I have a couple clients, they're all in the same group, and when this one guy is worth $3 billion, he's mad that his friend's worth $4 billion. And it's like, bro, what? Are you out of your mind? Like, you're looking to buy a baseball team. Like, what are you, crazy? And then I had to learn it, Rachel, from the personal side of like being the Italian kid from Brooklyn. You set these. I didn't set them. The family set them. You know, by 28, you should be married. You should have a house. You should be a millionaire. And I do that. And I get to 28 and I'm the most miserable I've ever been, because when you think that's going to give you the joy and you did all this stuff and it's kind of sucked anyway. I'm like, why am I working so hard? Why am I with somebody that really, but it's felt good. You're Italian, you have house, you build the whole house, and it's like, wow. And that's when I became destructive. And I really felt when you said the addictive personality, because obviously you were successful. You could keep that obsessiveness towards the good. But I felt that because my father was, raging alcoholic, a gambler, all this stuff. He went to the witness protection program when I was 6. He disappeared. And I've been left with those taints of like the obsessiveness. So I always feel that one, because I've probably been addicted to like everything in my life. And the second I start, even when Hector comes on, we was talking about the seeds, and it's like understanding that those seeds have been sown for many years, and it's almost unsowing them in a way. And even like I think the last time we came, we was talking about just sitting on the, like, what are the thoughts that go on when I sit on the train going to the city? It wasn't good. I didn't realize like how much toxicity is in our mind. I think becoming aware of that is the first step into this path. And, and when I went on my little retreat in Costa Rica, I kind of had like a breakdown because I saw, you know, when COVID happened, life was easy because when you sit here, you look inside. And I said, I thought I had it all figured out. But when the world came back, it's like, I shouldn't have to go sit on top of a mountain to be at peace. If I can't be near people, I'm still getting aggravated. Like I got some work to do. And I think this ties in with your little self retreat. Like how long have you been doing this for? And what did that look like for you?
Yeah. I mean, it is the human condition to be this way though. We shouldn't be so hard on ourselves, you know? We're forced as a human to have those toxic thoughts. And so retreat is like such a healthy way to step back and be like, wait, what is going on? Can I look at my mind? And also, can I put my mind on a regimen that's healthy? So if you think about it, like if we're not intervening, if we're not meditating daily, if we're not checking our minds regularly, like hourly, you know, if we're not doing some sort of like service work to witness ourselves creating something good, it's like eating McDonald's all day, every day for your mind. And so retreat is like, no, sit down, you know, drink the green juice or whatever the analogy is. And there's a period of time. And I think this can happen for years, for multiple retreats across time, where you're kind of purging. You're like, whoa, I've been like this, and you're seeing all these things, but it's still good for you. You're getting the McDonald's out of your system. That's what about half of my retreat was like. So I've done, I don't know, like 4 or 5 guided retreats, which I recommend that everyone start with guided retreats in a safe community of people who either, you know, you're all doing it together, or, you know, you have people who are serving the retreat and leading the retreat and taking care of you, because it's such a delicate thing. I think you're right that we had a unique experience during COVID where suddenly tons of us were sort of trapped in almost a retreat-like experience where we were forced to look inward. And a lot of people, like we saw it, a lot of people really lost it. Like people started drinking really heavily, people started doing a lot of drugs, and it brought up a lot. So retreat is a very intense experience, and it's useful. I'm trying to send a message of loving guidance to the personality like me, who would hear something like, oh, 10-day retreat, I'm going to go by myself and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to try so hard and I'm going to be so intense. And then you end up kind of hurting yourself because you don't know what you're doing yet. And so I recommend, so I did a bunch of that. I've been doing that for years now. And I did it with Hector. He's the main person that led me in retreat. And the cool thing about the retreat, and these were all 3 Jewels retreats, you know, before I started working at 3 Jewels. And basically what you do is you learn the Tibetan Buddhist method, which is basically 4 times a day at certain points in the day, you're sitting down and you're doing a meditation that's healthy for your mind. So basically what's healthy for your mind in a distilled form is compassion and where does the world come from? The joy isn't in the money. The joy, like your friend who's was it billionaire, like 3 versus 4 billion. So then they would sit down and they would say like, okay, like it's not about the 3 billion versus the 4 billion. It's kind of like that. And so you meditate on wisdom, and then you meditate also on compassion. And my practice is a little bit different. It's a practice I can't share details about it publicly because it is a Vajrayana practice, but that's the essence. And so 4 times a day, you sit down, you go through, it's about an hour. You go through your practice 4 times a day, you know, you feed yourself. A lot of people will do yoga to support the seated practice. And then that's basically it. You sleep a lot. Some people will bring an instrument into retreat and play an instrument. I brought in a very long commentary on the practice that I'm doing, and my sort of joy practice was like reading that commentary because I really like reading. But basically that's what I did for 10 days. because I had already done it for years and years, I kind of had a framework of like, okay, I generally know what this is like for my body. I generally know how my mind responds to something like this. And so I'd set it up. I went out into the desert in Arizona, and that's what I did. 4 times a day, about an hour, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. And it's not about having an experience. It's about just literally like you go to the gym and you do your reps. It's like, okay, I'm going into retreat, I'm doing my reps. It would be great if an experience happened. Like it would be great if I transcended in this retreat. But until I transcend, I have to keep planting the seeds of that in my mind. And there's no telling how long it will take. But for me, I would say there were some really beautiful experiences. And there were also some very strong experiences, which were like the purging of the McDonald's. Like, oh man, I realized what I'm thinking when I'm sitting on the train. And the cool thing about the retreat is like you come out, it's exactly what you just said, Scott, which is like, I came out of Costa Rica, like realizing that I need to change this type of thing. Like I saw something when I was in Costa Rica, and now I'm like, oh shit, okay, that's the reality. And then when you go back into your life, you can then work on it a little bit more and in a different way. And so I sort of had that. It's funny because I had coffee with a friend this morning for like 2 hours. And that's exactly what we were talking about, what I learned, what I need to change now that I'm out. And then when I go back in, what can I do next year or in 6 months when I do my next retreat to be able to stay in a little bit longer? Because retreat, it's something, it's implicit when you practice. Like some people find it harder than others. Like I don't have kids, you know, like I have a job where I can say I'm doing my retreat and everyone's okay with that because we're all Buddhists and we get it and we value it. It's not like you have 10 days, you know, request your 10 days a year. But eventually people work up to doing a 4-week retreat, and generally they'll do it every year. We also have a culture of 3-year retreat at Three Jewels. So we do have some teachers who've done the 3 years by themselves. And so that's something that I'd like to do. If you know, if by the point that there's a group of us ready to go in for 3 years, I would like to go.
Man, that sounds wonderful. Yeah, and Rachel, you got it way more compacted and better than me. Mine was just like meditating into reading a book, into crying, into repeating that process like 3 or 4 times. I was like, what is going on? It was just such a weird thing. But you're meditating for basically 4 hours, give or take, 4 hours a day on retreat.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah, but I cried so much too.
Okay. So I don't feel as bad. And
yeah, don't feel bad. I was like, in the morning, I was like crying because I was grateful and everything is beautiful. And then in the afternoon, I'm crying because I can't, you know, get to where I want to get in my meditation. And then in the, you know, then I go to sleep and then I wake up and the whole process repeat. I mean, you know, this just happens forever until we're free because we're human. And I think more advanced you get, the more you're just like, yeah, that happened again. And you just don't even like, you're just like, all right, keep going, keep moving.
So you really, I know you mentioned it earlier, but that compassion is really instilled as you, that's what you kind of get in your lashes will be in a couple of years. I'm trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Because in this
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah. Compassion is like your fuel.
Yeah.
Compassion's like, if I was only doing it for myself and I wasn't doing it for every single teacher and student at Three Jewels and every single person that I come into contact with, I wouldn't have the power. No one would. No one could. Because if we're just doing it for ourselves, that's just one mind. You know, it's just one mouth that you're feeding. And the power comes when you have it for more than just you. It's like those stories about like the mother suddenly has the strength to lift the car off the infant. Like you can't meditate for that long if it's just for you, but you can lift the car off the infant if it's for someone you love. And that's why compassion is so important. You won't ever get to freedom if you don't love everybody. So then you're like, oh, okay, got to figure out how to love everybody. And then you you know, it's not such a linear process. It's not like you just sit down and decide, I'm going to be Buddhist, now I'm going to love everybody. No, it's like 10, 20, 30 years or lifetimes of wrestling with yourself to try to convince yourself, you know, what I like or dislike about this person is just like the money. There's no pleasure inside the money. There's no pain inside $3 billion versus $4 billion. And there's no pleasure inside $3 billion versus $4 billion. In the same way, the people that I dislike, there's no nature or essence of asshole inside of them. It's just my mind doing all of these different things on these objects. I'm forced to have an experience of liking or disliking. And so in Buddhism, what you do is there's all these different meditations in all these different ways, but basically there's two. One is you figure out like the experience I'm having of this person is not coming from them. It's coming from my own mind. If I want it to change, I have to love them. That's the only way to make it different. It's the only way. And it might take a freaking long time. But if I want to start to see them as good, I have to figure out how to love them. And, you know, the other way is just realizing that we're all human and none of us has control. Like, yeah, they got so angry at me. Yeah, but Rachel, did you remember yesterday when you got so angry? Yeah, what about that? Could you control it? No. Okay, so do you think they could control it? Okay, maybe not. So then should you be so mad at them? Yeah, maybe not. And then you kind of just have to do that. And then once you get to the point where you're like, oh man, everyone's screwed. Everyone's screwed. Everyone thinks the pleasure is inside the money. Everyone thinks the pleasure is inside the partner. Everyone thinks the pleasure is inside the better apartment. And then they're running this Olympic sprint to try to collect all those things. And then they die. They get cancer and they die, or they get hit by a car, and that's it. And then they're afraid, their minds aren't trained. They have no idea how to die. They have no idea how to die well. They've spent their lives being angry at people. And then they have a horrible death. And that's what pretty much everyone can expect. So then when you spend enough time thinking about that, you're like, damn, even the worst person in the entire world deserves my compassion, because they don't know. Like, if you did know how to get happy, you wouldn't hurt people. It would be stupid. And the people that hurt people, they're just stupid, according to the Buddha. It's, you know, and me, I've been stupid when I've hurt. It's not to put them down. I just, I'm dramatic sometimes. But it's a deficiency to harm other people, because it ends up harming you. If the laws of cause and effect are true, the laws of karma are true, every time you hurt someone, you'll be hurt. So those people are actually worth way more compassion. So it's like that. And then you convince yourself to love people through logic. Then once you love them, you can actually have the power to lift the car of meditating that many times a day. Then hopefully, you know, then you will get those experiences. And as time moves by, things become more beautiful. Like, as you learn to love people more, like different people show up in your life. You know, you asked what I was like before I found Buddhism. You know, I wasn't like nice and I wasn't happy. And like all in high school, you know, I was just like this lone wolf type person. I didn't really have friends. I didn't really trust people enough to have friends. And I never, like school dances and all dancing the same step at the same time. I was like, no, I was the one, you know, out in the back smoking a cigarette. And I wanted to be a part of something that embraced me, but I didn't think it was possible for me. And then over a period of time, practicing this stuff, like I look around and I'm like, I'm actually surrounded by a community of people that love me and that I love. And I never thought I would have a group of like-minded people around me that I, you know, enjoy and trust and vibe with on an intellectual level. And we're all kind of our own lone wolves that found each other type of thing. My relationship with my family changed. The way I see my family completely changed. I mean, I had, like how you're describing with your family, like addiction and mental illness run in my family. It's like everybody, you know? It's like everyone. It's very strong in my family. And I spent years not talking to people. Different other people in my family spent years not talking to people. And now I'm in this situation because of my practice, that it's just not that way anymore. I mean, I never thought I would see the family dynamic that I have now, where we're all like, I can't wait to see you for Christmas. Like, never. No. And you're not going to be shit-faced and have a huge argument on Christmas? Never thought that was possible. Mm-mm.
Rachel, you're hitting me hard here, because like I think all the crying I did in Costa Rica was like hitting those points, because there's something with with people that I had this insight of. During COVID, I was the opposite. I crushed it, made the most money, was at peace, and it was all these things. It was great, but I realized it was good. But on that part of it, it was like post-divorce, and you got the tools right. I was using the meditating, I was using the yoga, I was personal development, but it was almost like you're using it for the ego almost. And then the second the world came back, people came into play, and I'm sitting here in Costa Rica mad, like, no, it's not, it's people. And I'm like, no, you idiot. It's your thoughts about people that is the issue. And I was like, fuck. It's like, so it's not like all this was for nothing. It was just, there's just some work to do. And I think that's what annoys me about not spirituality, because you guys got it right, but some people with psychology or personal development or self-improvement, they're using it selfishly. And the second, what you were saying about people and understanding that it's for everybody else, that's the difference. Because that's when I see some of these girls I'm dating, it's like, you're not really spiritual. You're just trying to like get this, pump your chest almost. And it's like, that's not what this is about.
Yeah, but it's always that way because we don't know. Like, it's like until we know, it's still kind of an ego game.
Yes.
But then the cool thing about the practice, or the cool thing about, like, I mean, I don't know what these people are practicing, but the cool thing about Buddhism is it will kick your ass if you do it. Like and I think it's true about karma. It's true if this is a truth that's like pervasive, if it's true that what you do has an effect that's similar to what the cause was, then you'll be forced to deal with your selfishness. And hopefully you'll be forced to deal with it in this life so that you can use your tools to get through it. Like, they'll learn. It's just a matter of time. And then you can like hope, like, oh man, I hope they figure it out soon. Because it's not, again, like, the pleasure isn't in having an amped up ego. It's not that either. And if you think that's it, you can get trapped there for a little while. And then something will kick you off your pedestal and you'll have to do the work. I mean, that's the beauty about it. You kind of have to you'll always sooner or later have to confront your own shit.
Yeah. No, and that's what's like this. That's exactly what's going on with me this year. I felt pretty at peace and spiritual, this stuff. And then the ego's been coming out because you have to go to the city and put the suit on. And, there's the guy called the Great Scott, which I don't want to talk about him. That's the Scott, the Wall Street guy. And it's like, I fucking hate this guy. And Carl Jung calls it the regression of the soul. And I'm like, I'm going fucking backwards here. What the fuck? But we could talk about this all day. So wait, the point I wanted to bring up is that the guided retreat, I saw that Three Jewels was doing in Spain, where I was supposed to go to Spain for Costa Rica, and you guys are going in May. So I'm hoping to go. You will be there with Hector, right?
I will be there. Hector will be the main teacher.
Okay.
And we're gonna do. Oh, actually, you'll like this. We're gonna be doing. It's a purification retreat, and so it is a practice with a particular personality trait of the Buddha. There's all different kinds of Buddhas, and the one that we'll be working with on that retreat, his name is Vajrasattva. And Vajrasattva is so cool because the practice that you do is all about purifying your mind, which really means purification is a weird word because it has all these like moralistic connotations, but really it's about transforming. It's about looking at the Great Scott and figuring out how you can flip your mind from feeling that annoyance. Like, underneath that annoyance, there's so much power. Like, when we get angry, that surge of energy is like so strong. It's so strong. But then because we have all these habits, it goes into anger. Yeah. But then purification is all about like, whoa, this energy is really strong. Cool. Here's love and joy. And it's not easy, of course, but it's possible, because there's nothing about that surge of energy that means that you have to be angry. There's nothing about that surge of energy that means that it has to be anger and not joy. And so the entire retreat is like, you have like, hey, have you had negative things that have happened in your life? Do you have personality traits that you wish you didn't have, but they follow you around anyway? I'm like, yes, yes. And shift how you look at them and how you work with them and change them. And, 10 days might not do that for everybody. It probably won't, but it will give you enough time to learn a practice that if you do it and you work with it, it will help you shift. So that will be in Spain. And I have to say, I've done this retreat with Hector before, and it's incredible. And it's all about that. You'll get a beautiful visualization with it. And I will be teaching yoga. So I teach a little bit of Dharma before my yoga classes, but the reason why we include yoga in the retreats is just to help people process things physically, because it's intense to meditate that long a day. I mean, you will be guided through meditations for at least 3 hours a day. And then, the yoga helps you release. And if you're getting angry or you're getting sad or you're getting, weird, it helps ground. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
And where in Spain is that?
It's in the south. It's called Cadiz.
Cadiz.
Yeah, we found this amazing retreat center called Surya Lila, which is like this award-winning European retreat center. You can stay in a house, you can stay in a yurt. There's all of these different options, and they have like organic olive and fruit trees on the property. So it's like this beautiful sort of like farm experience. I wanted to do a European retreat because we hadn't done one since COVID. And so we found one.
I mean, I'm sold here. I'm in. And we'll link that below. Now, as far as what's going on at the end of the year,
yeah.
I saw there was something on the 29th regarding journaling, and I'm not going to make myself look dumb trying to explain it, but I'll let you do the honors here, because this goes into, and it comes into like one of my last questions I always like to ask guests, and particularly spiritual people, is there's like these 3 phases of life. There's the present moment, being mindful and all that stuff. Then there's the future, journaling, and then there's the past of trauma. How would you philosophize kind of your theory on this, and how does the journaling come into play with those phases of life?
So that's a great question. I'll try to answer it. Okay. The journaling, it has to do with taking your meditation. So, okay, we have to go to the basics. What's the goal of meditation, right? The goal of meditation is to change the fabric of your mind. If I'm spending all this time sitting and meditating on love and wisdom, the goal isn't to be a good person sitting and meditating on love and wisdom. The goal is that you incorporate that meditation into your mind so it becomes your mind. The Buddha is always meditating on love and wisdom, but her eyes are open, or his eyes or their eyes are open, and they also happen to be eating an apple, riding the subway, and whatever. But because humans are stupid, we don't have that. So we have to close our eyes and do it, and then open our eyes, and we're back to the same old shit, And so the journaling is actually, it's an ancient practice. What the monks used to do is they would put a black stone in their pocket every time they had a dark thought towards someone. And then they would put a light stone in their pocket every time they had a compassionate thought. Then at the end of the day, they'd be like, the left side of my pants is all the way down. That means I did a good job. Or, like that. Yeah. And so the journaling is like, okay, in the morning or whatever, I meditated on compassion. I felt a little bit. Then the journal is throughout the day, every 3 hours you check back in. Did I have a compassionate thought? Oh, crap. I got really annoyed at my coworker and I stood at the water fountain and I said something bad about them. And so the journal is basically an opportunity to stop, check in. Am I holding my meditation or not? And then eventually and you do that 6 times a day. Eventually the idea is that you don't have to check in anymore because you're just like that, you know? And so that's what it is. And then the cool thing about the journaling is that the prompts are from a list of thoughts that the Buddha said, like, if you want to be like me, these are all the thoughts you have to think. And there's 3 different sets of those thoughts or karmas. And what they are is the 3 sets of vows. And if you really advance, you have all your vows, it's like 400 different things that you check in on. There's 400, and you cycle, you go 1 through 6, then 7 through 12 and whatever. But basically you just check in, like, is my mind like the Buddha's mind today? And some of them they're really easy. It's like, did I kill anyone? No, that's great. I gave a homeless person $1. That means they ate and I helped their livelihood or something. So it's like that. It's like that. And cool. It's so cool. And what we're doing is, so everyone has that. When you take Buddhist vows, you get that practice at 3 Jewels. It's something that we do to support people, is teach that to them. And so everyone's doing it. Like all the most of them that you see at 3 Jewels, they're doing this. And so we said, how can we bring this to the students? Even if they don't have vows, they haven't taken vows, or maybe they have no interest in vows. So what we're doing is we're printing these workbooks that people can do. They can just see what the Buddha advised and then check in, like, yes, I did this. No, I didn't do this. And then you get the opportunity to plan a little makeup activity to try to get your mind back there. And so I'm going to be teaching that. The books will be released. So even if you don't come, you can buy the notebook and try to do it. That'll be on the 29th from 7:30 to 8:30 Eastern Standard. And it's a hybrid event. So if folks are not in New York City, they can tune in virtually, or if they are in New York City, they can come to 3 Jewels. I think we have a capacity of like 50 people in the workshop. You can come in and we can do it in person, and we can talk and chat after and things like this. And that workshop is all for, it's raising funds. So I'm not charging for the workshop. I'm not getting any money for the workshop. It's just to raise funds for our end of year fundraiser for 3 Jewels.
Yeah, and that's called, and we'll link that too below. It's called Buddhist Journaling for the New Year, and I'll put that link below. And I do think that's a good point, Rachel. I know how important it is for the fundraising at the end of the year. So anything anybody can do. Do we have a link for that, or is that just on the website or something?
I can send you the link. Yes,
yeah, let's do that.
We have a link, and it's true. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that all this stuff is at 3 Jewels was free, like I would never have studied this stuff. I told you, when I found Buddhism, I had lost my job. I didn't have money to like go and pay to do a spiritual retreat or go back to school to like study it at, any college. Like forget NYU, that's $1,000 a credit, even a state school. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And so then I walk into 3 Jewels, it's all free. I'm like, I never would have, I was making $25,000 out of college doing research on the brains of alcoholics. You see what I'm saying? And so it's like 3 Jewels really does bring this stuff to people. And that's what we need the money for, so that we can keep doing it for free.
Exactly. And it's really, I couldn't believe it. So you go look at all the classes, it's like free or donation. I'm like, where's the catch here? And there's no catch. It's just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful thing. So Rachel, yeah, there's no catch. I mean, listen, she gets a chance to talk to you and Heather. This is all good. It's all good. We're playing with house money here, people. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me. I can't believe how fast we blew by, like 50 minutes here. We blew by. Thank you so much.
I know. It was really fun to talk with you.
Of course. Yeah. Come back on whenever. And you can find Rachel's personal info and how to find her, 3 Jewels, all this good stuff. If you need me to do intros, I know some of you are a little timid. Don't freaking worry. I love how everybody thinks I'm like the outgoing guy. Rachel's like, I have anxiety. Same as everybody else. But we're all good. And I will just say, I love the Med Gala, and everybody got to come again. Causing the effect. People, I can't believe 15 of us showed up. Let's roll and all be a member of 3 Jewels together. Rachel, thank you so much again.
Thank you, Scott.
Of course. Cause the effect. Thank you guys so much for 100,000 downloads last month. I love you guys. Let's just keep doing it. Definitely share this one with one of your friends. That's it. As always, stay safe, stay positive, stay blessed. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.